keeping the ball in there. That's what you get paid for. That's our job.
Yeah.
Confidence is massive. If you go into a game confident and you feel good, I think you most often than not play well and do well. And we often forget to tell people how good they are at something. And I think that's what I try and do. I try and always remind them that, you might have one bad thing, but you've got 4 unbelievable assets. Just don't overthink the bad thing too much. We'll work on it, but remember what you're good at all the time. Live in the moment almost and take one thing at a time. The first thing I look for, if a goalie comes in on trial, can they keep the ball in it? They have a desire to do it. The last 2 years have shown, I think life's too short.
Yeah.
So whatever you do in life, you must enjoy it and be happy. You've got to get your weaknesses to a point where they're not a weakness anymore. If you want to play at the top level, you've got to get it to maybe your weakness to a 6 out of 10, maybe your strength to a 9 or 10.
So welcome to episode 6 of Keeping It Out the Net. This is series 1, and as I said, episode 6. I'm really excited for this episode, probably the most excited I've been, since the beginning of doing this. And obviously my mission is to interview the very best goalkeeping players I know and coaches I know. And this interview is going to give a lot of unique insights. And someone I got to know over the last few months as well, a really good guy, a top professional, and it'd be really good to just ask him a few questions that I wouldn't normally get to ask him when it would be in coaching or just day to day. And I'm really, really excited to introduce my next guest, Luke O'Reilly. Thanks for coming on to the episode, Luke.
Brilliant. Thanks, Luke. Thanks for having me.
And
thanks for the nice introduction.
Obviously, you've been at some top clubs over the years. You've been at the likes of Cardiff City. I think you spent some time at Academy, more recently Carlisle United as a player, and then obviously more recently you doing some coaching at Stevenage, obviously with the first team, with the academy. I know at one point you were doing all of it, and obviously transitioning from a player to a coach is quite unique. But just for the purposes of someone who's watching this who's never come across you, what got you into goalkeeping in the first place?
By accident, really. I think probably like most goalkeepers started off as like a left back outfield at a young age, and then the boy who usually played in goal got injured. I just stepped in, and was quite good. Loved saving shots, and then I actually didn't want to do it at first. So my mum actually used to bandage my hand up when I went to training and pretended that I had a hand injury, so I didn't have to go in goal. But then eventually I just warmed to it and loved diving around in the mud, loved saving shots. And then started playing Sunday League, and then eventually worked my way into an academy.
Was there like a particular influence, like someone in the family or like a role model that maybe got you specifically playing in goal?
Not really, no. Like, I think my mum and dad have always been, lucky to have such a good family. They've always helped me, and they just always encouraged me and just wanted me to have fun and play football. Really, they didn't really care what position or where. Just wanted to binge, so into it.
I mean, like I said, obviously, these interviews I've been doing is trying to get to people who've necessarily been to a professional level. And obviously, you did in Cardiff. Obviously, I'm sure you were around some top coaches, some top players. Same with Carlisle. What was the biggest things you noticed, compared to someone who's like maybe an amateur or semi-pro? What would you say is the biggest difference between someone at amateur level and someone in that environment, in a professional environment?
I think it's small margins. I think, obviously, I think athletically is massive. I think the top players have a natural athleticism. They're just quicker than everyone else, stronger than everyone else. So that helps. And then I think psychologically is massive.
Yeah.
I think going through academies, you'll get the same training, you'll get all the same things, all play the same games. But I think there's some people probably want or need it more, and they've just had that desire to go out and win and play well and do the right things off the pitch as well. I think that's a massive thing in professional football.
I think a big thing that struck me when I first, obviously you've been coaching me the last few months, and we only met, last summer. But I think when I was doing my research, I saw a picture of you obviously training with the England setup, and that must have been like the highlight of your career. But how did that come about, and how was that for you? Like, how good was that?
Yeah, it's quite surreal actually. So I came towards the end of my time at Cardiff, and my previous goalie coach in my academy, Matt Murray, who I'm still really good friends with, he phoned me up and said, "Oh, England need a goalkeeper to do like the shots at the end and finishing what the senior boys didn't want to do." He said, "Come down for a day and and go for it." So I went down, and then lucky enough for me, my old Cardiff goalie coach is the England goalie coach, and he's still there now, Martin Margetson. And he said, "Oh, you might as well stay for the whole week."
Yeah.
So obviously, it went from a day to staying for the whole, like for the I think it was 5 days, and it's surreal.
Like Joe Hart, I think Jack Butler and Fraser Forster. So I mean, these are idols, superstars. So
no, it's really surreal. And then obviously done the finishing with like Harry Kane, Rashford, I think Sterling, Defoe at the time, and then sitting around dinner tables with like the staff and the other players. That was weird, but I loved it.
What sets them apart, like say a Joe Hart or a Fraser Forster or Jack Butler? What was it you noticed about them, about their aura and the way they acted?
Yeah, I think intensity as well. What they work at is massive. They're so clean with everything they do. Like every technique is on the money.
Yeah.
Obviously they make a lot less mistakes in and around the goal. Yeah, and I think the aura is there just because of who they are and the experience they've had, and it's just a natural thing. And but they're all top people, top pros. They're just normal people at the end of the day. Just fortunate enough to be very good at what they do.
Yeah. And in terms of your journey and your story, obviously you made a decision to retire essentially from playing a couple of years or so, and obviously they say goalkeepers mature later. So obviously to retire at such a young age, but then make that decision to go into coaching. What was your thought process behind that? And then why did you choose to go into coaching? It's not everyone who's a good goalkeeper is necessarily a good coach, obviously, which you are.
Yeah.
What made you do that?
It got to a point where I think I sacrificed so much throughout my playing career, and you get a little in return. So, I lived away from home for 5 years. I missed family events, girlfriend's graduation, things like that. And then I went up to Carlisle, and it was a short-term deal. Money was pretty poor, wasn't playing. I just, I just got to a point where I think, what am I doing this for now? Where am I getting with it? I got to an age, I think I was 21, where I was starting to think, I need to be a bit more solid. I need to start getting a foundation for my future. And I weren't getting that with a football career. And then I came back home, started playing non-league and doing coaching on the side. And I always said whatever one kicked off more, got more joy and success from, I'd go for. And coaching, I started to really enjoy it and got a full-time job at Stevenage. So I put all my eggs in that basket really in the end and just went with that, yeah.
Obviously, I know it's chopped and changed a lot of Stevenage with management and things like it does in football in general, but obviously the early part of this season you worked with Joseph, obviously, who's part of the West Ham setup. And obviously you worked with loads of other goalkeepers, but what's the core philosophy at Stevenage, and what's the core things you really try and get across to them that make you different to another club, for instance?
For me, look for a goalkeeper. The 4 main things for me are bravery, not just diving at people's feet and blocking shots, but like the way they play. Brave at the passes, their positioning. I think aggression. Being aggressive, coming for crosses off their line, and athleticism. How can they make shots? How can they save shots? How quick are they off their line? Stuff like that. And just I think. And just those key things, and then you look for, and you try and build a profile of a goalkeeper around it. And I think, I've always, for my situation, try and give young goalkeepers a chance.
Yeah,
because they're good enough. It's just obviously they're that nous that maybe the more experienced goalkeepers have. That's what I'd look for. Yeah, and it's pretty simple.
That's something you do. Like obviously, you sometimes have younger goalkeepers involved, even with the first team, which is obviously really good to see as well. So
so obviously, I was doing both roles for a year and a half, so from under 9s to first team. So it's quite a big thing for me to try and make a pathway for young goalkeepers at the club to come up and train every now and again. And youth team goalies used to do it quite often. Used to try and get him up. Obviously, it's a bit difficult sometimes with COVID and the bubbles and stuff. And then, I think we had young Eli came up at 15 years of age, warmed up with the first team. So trying much as possible to try and involve them and give them that experience early on.
Yeah. Obviously, goalkeeping, a huge part of it, like anything in life, to be successful, you have to have a strong mindset. Psychology is key.
Yeah.
What would you say is the biggest psychological aspect of goalkeeping? Is it having the right attitude? Is it being thick-skinned, things like that?
I think confidence is massive. I think if you go into a game confident and you feel good, I think you most often than not play well. And I think resilience as well, like you just said, you need rhino skin sometimes. If you're playing in front of 80,000 fans, you've got millions more on Twitter, when you wake up the next day in the newspaper, I think that's massive. And self-belief, just believing in yourself, because those tough times will happen.
Would you instill that? Like, is it repetition? Is it talking through things like that?
I think there's a few different. I think as a coach, you try and support them as best as you can, because no matter what goalkeeper you're working with, they're going to go through a bad moment, a bad patch, and it's reminding them how good they are. And I think as people, we're always reminded of what we're bad at.
Yeah. It's obviously like mistakes, injuries, setbacks. I think I saw a quote the other day, actually. It said something like, one mistake doesn't define your performance, but neither does a clean sheet. So obviously, you can win as a team, but you might have had a bad performance. So as a goalkeeper, it's like a separate position. You kind of sometimes have to. You might have had a really good game, but you lost the game. So sometimes I suppose it's that personal feedback, which I'm assuming. As a goalkeeping coach, back in the day, there wasn't goalkeeping coaches in football. So specialised position at the end of the day, isn't it? Yeah,
of course it is. Specialised. I think goalkeeper coaches probably understand. I think they're just as important as they are for training sessions. They're important for some to talk to. We understand what the goalie's going through. It's a special relationship. And I think the best goalkeepers now are emotionless almost. When they make a top corner save, if they're too high and they've got to defend the corner in 10 seconds time.
Yeah.
And vice versa, if they're too down after a mistake, they're going to concede a lot more goals. And so it's about keeping level-headed and keeping your feet on the floor, because football can change a particular finger, especially as a goalkeeper. You just need to live in a moment almost and take one thing at a time. Yeah.
In terms of the technical side of things, apart from the psychology, like what would you say, having worked with so many different goalkeepers, having been one yourself, what would you say is on the technical side of things? Is it distribution? Is it coming for crosses? Is it shot stopping? Catching the ball more than you parry? What is the most important thing you found?
Shot stopping always been the most important thing. Keeping the ball in there, that's what you get paid for. That's our job. So distribution's massive now, but for me, our most important thing, just like a striker always be scoring goals, the goalkeeper always be keeping them out. I think that is what it is. That's what the first thing I look for. If a goalie comes in on trial, can they keep the ball in it? If they have a desire to do it. Yeah. And obviously, I think probably distribution is probably overtaking crossing and stuff like that now. It's such a big part of the game. Yeah, but I do love goalies coming for crosses as well and demanding their box, and it sets the tone. Yeah.
Who's a goalkeeper like in the Premier League or even worldwide that you would say is worth keeping an eye on and sort of modelling yourself on?
So I think, if you could take little bits from each goalkeeper, if you could take Edison's distribution, maybe Oblak's shot stopping, maybe Mendy at Chelsea's cross taking, then you've got one hell of a keeper. So it depends what you're looking at and what you want from a keeper. But if I was to choose my favourite keeper, it'd probably be Edison. I just think he does everything, and just obviously, I think a lot gets spoken about playing out from the back and playing short all the time. But his range of distribution, his variation, makes it incredibly hard to the other team to defend against. Yeah.
Would you say you're someone who advocates doubling down on your strengths, or do you like to also work on your weaknesses as well?
I think you've got to do both. Like I said before, you've got to always, remember what your strengths are and show them off.
Yeah.
And show people why you're a good goalkeeper. But then, you've got to get your weaknesses to a point where they're not a weakness anymore. If you want to play at the top level, you've got to get it to maybe your weakness to a 6 out of 10, maybe your strength to a 9 or 10.
Yeah.
To everyone's another weakness.
Yeah.
It's about almost trying to not hide it, but maybe make it to an acceptable level.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Obviously, I mean, coaching obviously is a big thing if you want to be a decent level goalkeeper anyway. But something I've found is obviously you can go into matches and stuff, and if you've not necessarily done certain things in preparation of a match, then you're turning up to a match essentially and not prepared. So how important is it for like a young goalkeeper growing up to maybe find a coach if they're not necessarily part of a professional setup?
I think it's really hard. So, if the grassroots clubs, a lot of them probably won't have a goalie coach. And I think it's really important to, know those techniques and, that position-specific training, if they can get them, go for it, yeah.
Yeah. And in terms of outside goalkeeping, I mean, when you were in your early days, in your teenage years, what was the things you liked to do outside of football that helped you in football? Like, was it gym training? Was it something to do with nutrition? Was it talking to people, watching things?
I think it's always been with me, outside. I learned, when I played, I was quite intense. Switch off. And, I've learned that you've got to enjoy life as well.
Yeah.
And spend time with people. And, I was always obsessed with football. Maybe when I come in for training, I should have just switched off and relaxed and done something completely different.
Yeah.
Something I've learned later in life, and something probably I regret from my playing career.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I find interesting about your career is obviously, as we all, when we're growing up, sometimes we have this dream of making it to the top, but sometimes we lose perspective and then we stop enjoying our football. And obviously, most people enjoy your football, which you recommend as well. Yeah.
So I got to that point where I was so obsessed with making it, I didn't really enjoy trying to make it anymore.
Yeah.
And you forget, there's more to life. No, obviously it was everything for me for such a long time, and then you end up hating it because you can't enjoy things outside of football.
Yeah, of course.
And then once I started enjoying things outside of football, I started loving football again and enjoying coaching and stuff like that. So yeah, definitely, have a release, have a distraction outside of it.
And just last few questions. I mean, if you were to start your career again and you wanted to offer a piece of advice to maybe someone who's a real young goalkeeper or someone who's just in their early teenage years, what would be a standout piece of advice you'd say to them, like, do this because I had to go through that and I learned the hard way kind of thing?
Honestly, it's simple, enjoy it. I think, if anything, the last 2 years have shown, I think life's too short.
Yeah.
So whatever you do in life, you must enjoy it and be happy. Again, like I said earlier, like my best games in football is when I enjoyed it and I went out and with a smile on my face and I was happy. That'd be my biggest bit of advice. And I think to parents as well, with young kids, just make sure they enjoy it.
Yeah.
Make sure they go into training, can't wait to go to training, and then they don't want to leave after training.
Yeah. That'd
be my biggest bit of advice.
And is there, like, I mean, I've found like enjoyment often comes from being around the right people. For instance, someone like yourself, like, I really respect you as a coach, really decent guy, and that makes the sessions flow. I get on with you, and that makes me not dread sessions, but actually look forward to them, for instance. Is there, like, so obviously you can say you enjoy it as much as you like, but times are going to come up. So how would you suggest that you enjoy it, even though it can sometimes be challenging?
I think from my point of view as a coach now, I think the environment's massive. Creating a place where people want to come in and work with you every day. I think that's from a coach's point of view. From a player's point of view, it's tough because obviously you can't control sometimes who your coach is, who your manager is. And if you don't like them, you're probably in a difficult situation. But I just, there's a lot worse thing. If you're in that situation where you're dreading going into train every day, I think you've got to remember that, especially at a professional level, you're probably very lucky to do what you do. You work 2-3 hours a day as a player probably, and then you can go home. So just try and get on with your teammates and do stuff outside of football. Yeah. The
last couple of questions, because I know you're tight on time. What's your vision for the future now? Obviously, you're still at Stevenage. Would you like to do coaching for many more years potentially, or would you say it's just day by day or year by year at the moment?
Oh no, I think that's who I am now. I think I'm a coach. I'd love to have many more years in it. Not quite sure yet what I prefer, whether it's youth development or but I love the winning side of things as well with the first team.
Yeah, so I'm assuming
I also get the pleasure out of seeing kids.
Yeah, I mean, obviously,
so I love that side of things, winning. Yeah, and obviously I like seeing kids come through and develop as well, and seeing them do well. So it's tough. I'm just happy to be in football and enjoying it. Yeah, at the minute.
Yeah. So just to wrap things up, obviously the main takeaway really then is enjoy your football. Don't take it too seriously in the sense to the point where you're not enjoying it. Is there anything that we've not covered? Would you say that if someone was watching this and they are trying to just make it to that next level that we haven't covered, that you'd just like to leave on, finish the interview with?
I just think make sure whatever level you're at and whatever you do in life in general, I think if you can look at yourself in the mirror at the end of the day and say you've done whatever you could do to be better that day, you're on the right tracks. That's all you can do. All you can do is give 100%. You're going to have mistakes. You're going to do, you're not going to have great days. But as long as you try to do the right things the right way, that's all you can do in life. You can't control the uncontrollable. Yeah, have no regrets. Just go into it and do the right things. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really good, and I'm sure. There's loads of good things in there you've said, and I know that'll definitely help people watching this series of episodes. But it's been really good, and thanks for your time, Luke. That's really good.
Oh, brilliant. Thanks, Luke.
Thank you.
Cheers, mate.
And I'll see you soon, obviously.
Yeah, see you soon. Cheers.
Thanks, Luke.
Bye.